Sometimes I get questions from those who want to start getting into jazz, but they get a little confused with the harmony. They get confused by what a 2-5-1 chord progression is. They maybe don't know as much about music theory, and so they need to understand some of the basics. Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create any chord progression in a major key coming right up. Hey, what's up? Brent from LearnJazzStandards.com, which is a blog, a podcast, and videos all geared towards helping you become a better jazz musician. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, make sure you do so at the button below, and you'll be locked into everything that's going on here. So I do get this question about how to build chord progressions and how chord progressions even work. Where do we come up with them? How do we know, how do we even know what a 1-6-2-5-1 chord progression is? And this is really important basic stuff, so I want to make sure to help those that need to know this stuff. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start harmonizing a major scale, and we're going to go over the major diatonic series of seventh chords. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right up onto finale, which is the music notation software that I use. You know, there's Sibelius, there's Finale. I've heard arguments for both. I'm just used to Finale, so I'm going to be using that one. Now, what we're going to start doing is harmonizing a C major scale just for demonstration purposes because there's no sharps or flats. It's easy for everybody. And I'm going to harmonize this major scale, a C major scale, with triads and then with seventh chords. And then you'll see how we end up coming up with chord progressions as we go. So let's start with this. So let's build a C major scale here. We got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We'll end on the octave. I'll erase this extra bar that they're throwing in there for me. Okay, so C major scale, basic C major scale. If you don't know your major scales, I would highly suggest looking into that because that's obviously an important basis to have in general for music theory knowledge. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack a third on top of each one of these notes, these tones in the scale, and we're going to start creating intervals here. So let's check this out. So I'm going to stack a third on top of this C. Okay. So that's an E. Now, what I know about this is a major third interval. This is important because it's going to help us understand how to build chords. We don't have chords yet. These are just intervals. Okay, now I'm going to stack on top of this second scale degree, D. I'm going to stack a third. Now, the relationship from D to F is a minor third. Now, how do I know that? Well, I mean, I could count half steps and all that stuff, but ultimately, I actually think it's better just to be able to hear this stuff. When I hear that, I hear a minor third. And so if you don't have some of that interval ear training, I highly suggest doing a little bit of that. I'm going to link a video I did about that and how to do that in the cards below. I'll put in the description below as well if you want to check that out a little later. So let's move on. Third scale degree, we have E. I'm going to stack that G on top. Minor. Okay, on the fourth scale degree, stack the third, that's a major. On the G, that's a major 2, a major third. On the A, the sixth degree, that's a minor third. The seventh is a minor third as well. And then we're going to go to the octave, which of course is a major third like we started at the beginning. So again, so far we have a series of intervals of major thirds and minor thirds. Now this is important because now I'm going to stack another third on top and we're going to create triads. A triad is simply a 3-note chord. Okay, so let's do that right now. I'm going to write the labels of them later, but for now I'm just going to stack the thirds. So let's just go through this really quickly. Okay, we did that. Now let's start labeling these. So we have to identify what quality of chord this is. So I have a major third starting C to E. Now, from E to G, that's a minor third. And I just know because I understand formulas of chords that that creates a major triad. A major interval with a major third with a minor third stacked on top creates a major chord. And I can also hear that when I hear the chord because I have some ear training skills. So I'm going to go ahead and just put C there. We don't need to put major or anything. That's pretty typical. All right, let's look at the second scale degree. So we have a minor third, like we discussed, starting up from D to F. Then from F to A, is a major third. Now, I happen to know that is the formula for a minor triad. So I'm going to go ahead and put D minor here. Moving on to E, we have another minor third with a major third stacked on top. That's going to be an E minor triad. So C, D, E, we're on to F, the fourth scale degree. F to A, right, is major. A to C is a minor third. So we have another major triad there. G is also a major triad. Same thing going on here. Now we're on the sixth scale degree. We also call this the relative minor, and there I gave it away right there. It's minor because we, again, have a minor third with a major third stacked on top. So we have A minor. Now this next one's a little different, the seventh scale degree. We have two minor thirds stacked on top of each other. Now when we have two minor thirds stacked on top of each other, that means we have a diminished triad. Okay, a diminished triad. That's just another formula for you to keep in mind. So this is a B diminished, or B dim as we'll call it. And then of course we're back at the octave of the first scale degree, so it is a C major. So this is what we have so far. Listen to this. Okay, so that's what it sounds like. That's what we have going on. These are triads, harmonized triads with the major scale. And so we came up with all of these chords in the diatonic series simply by creating chords, by stacking thirds on top of the different scale degrees. Okay, that's how we did it. These are all in root position, closed position stuff. Okay, so now we're going to do seventh chords because in jazz, seventh chords is really what we use, I would say 95% of the time. So it's important to understand what those are as well. So let's go ahead and start doing that. I'm going to leave the triad labelings up for now, but we'll fix them in a second. So quickly, just going to lop on top another third interval on top of each one of these to make seventh chords. Now, what kind of seventh chord, that has yet to be determined here. So let's talk about that. Going back to my chord. Okay, so looking at this one, I already know that it's a major triad, so the best assumption to make is that it's going to be a major seventh. And that's true because if we look at this B up top, B is a half step away from C. I know that there's a half step relationship. It's going to be a major seventh, okay? So C major seventh. Okay, looking at this D minor, again, I know it's minor already, so if you just simply understand formulas for minor seventh chords, you know that the seventh is flatted, and that's going to be true. C to D, that's a whole step interval, right? So we know that it's going to be a flat 7. Same with E minor 7. Now F, take a look at this. It's going to be a major 7. E to F is a half step, right? If we go up just one semitone there. So we have F major 7. Okay, now this one's going to be a little different. Okay, so check this out. We have major third, minor third, right? Just like a major triad would be. But then we have this F here, okay? From F to G, that's a whole step, right? So that's a flat 7 there. So what we have when we have a major third but then a flat 7 is a dominant seventh chord. So this is a G7, and it's the 5 chord. 5 chord's always a dominant seventh chord. Okay, another minor seventh chord here. Now this one is also going to be different. It's not going to be diminished because the seventh, the A natural on top of the chord here, is not a double flat 7, which is what would make a diminished seventh chord. It's just a flat 7. So this is what we call a half diminished chord, or commonly labeled as a minor 7 flat 5 chord. So we have a B minor 7 flat 5. Okay, and then of course we're back at C, which is going to be C major 7. So let's take a listen to that really quick. Okay, so there you go. Harmonized major scale with seventh chords. Now I'm going to flash on the screen really quick a chart that I've made that I call the major diatonic series of seventh chords. Now this really just kind of outlines what we just did, but you'll see Roman numerals at the bottom. So at the very top, we have the C major scale written out, more appropriately, the bass notes of all the chords. Okay, then below that we have the quality, major seventh, minor seventh, major seventh, dominant seventh, so on and so forth. Below that we have the full chord name, so right, C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7. And then below that we have the Roman numeral numbers of each chord or scale degree that we are referring to. So if you have a uppercase Roman numeral, that means it's either major or dominant. If you have a lowercase Roman numeral, that means it is minor, okay? Minor or half diminished, so some sort of minor chord. So that's how we do it in the music theory world. Now, this is where chord progressions that are popular in jazz and other forms of music, like a 2-5-1 chord progression, come into play. Because if we're to take in the key of concert C that we're in, what is a 2-5-1 chord progression? Just take a look at the chart really quick. A 2 is what? It's D minor 7. The 5 chord is G7. And the 1 chord is C major 7. Does that make sense? Now, if we are to think about, well, what is the 4 chord in C major 7? Well, we know it's F major 7. Now, it's not enough, of course, just to know everything in concert C. We have to know other keys too. So if we're in the key of concert F major, what's a 2-5-1 in concert F major? You got to know, of course, the scale, right? So an F major has 1 flat in the key signature. That flat is B flat. So if you can build the scale, then you can know those scale degrees and harmonize them as well. But it's going to be G minor 7 is the 2 chord, C7 is the 5 chord, and then F major 7 is, of course, the 1 chord. Now, what I want you to do is go through in a bunch of different keys and start identifying different chord progressions. 1-6-2-5, 3-6-2-5, 1-4-3-6, different things like this. Or what if we did 1-4, sharp 4 diminished? Right? There's different things that we can do, but understanding this fundamental knowledge is how we can get there if you don't know this already. So that's what my challenge is for you. Now, I want you to put in the comments below, how do you understand chord progressions? Is this an easy way for you to understand it, or is there another way that you suggest? Did this help you? Just leave your comments below. Now, if you want to take this a little further, you want to start analyzing jazz standards with Roman numerals and chords and understanding them a little better, I do have an ebook that you might want to look at for an extra resource. It's called the Jazz Standards Playbook. You can find it at thejazzstandardsplaybook.com, and that just might be helpful for you if you want to go further with some of this stuff. Okay, that's all for now. I want to thank you so much for watching. Hope this was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.